Well, moving on to business news now. Well, yesterday tell you that the president has signed the 2016 budget into law. Well, joining me now in the studio, our business editor, Bosun Omafai. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
Well, there's been a lot of expectations and talk about the 2016 budget having gone back and forth between the executive and the legislature. But now, he's put pen to paper.
Yes, I think that is quite historic. 5 months is delayed. A lot has been discussed about this. It's been a long waiting coming. But again, as you read earlier in the news, there are certain areas that looks very interesting and they are forward-looking for those who are interested in investment. The President and the National Assembly Committee were talking about a predictable exchange rate in about a year from now. And I'm sure that is something that will be very comfortable to both local and foreign investors. You can't run an exchange rate that is so volatile that is totally unpredictable. So that will be good on one hand. The second is that we're looking at interest rates that will back to around 9% in a year, and that will be very good. Part of the 34 critical areas the president the government is looking at. So if you can get interest rate back to 9%, that will be single digit. At what rate would you be looking at inflation? That will be another discussion. But at least you'll be able to move headline interest rates back from about 12% to 9%. That will be a lot of work to do. Will we be able to spend our way from 2016 to 2017 to be able to achieve that? Then we need to spend massively this year. The time is very short. We have only about 7 months before the end of this year. Already we know the 2016 budget will overlap into the first quarter of 2017. Therefore, the work to start on 2017 very early will be in rightful place so that we have an idea of what 2017 will look like at least by December. Now, if we backtrack a little bit to what the Minister of Finance said some few months ago, that spending will start as soon as the budget is passed. Now, it has been signed. The first 350 billion that the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, talked about will be the first port of call right now for everybody out there. People are looking at, she said that it will be spent in the second quarter. Now, the first month of the second quarter is passed. So we're left with 2 months in the second quarter. That means that we need to hear again in the next few hours, perhaps in the next few days, from the Minister of Finance, will we still have 350 billion naira spent within the next 60 days of the second quarter, or we would not be able to spend that much? If we're going to spend 350 billion over the next 60 days till the end of June, when the second quarter ends, we'll need to know who gets this money. And she had said previously that discussions had been going on with the contractors, those who would have multiplier effect on the economy, those who are already on site that would have to be paid, hire more Nigerians and get them to start work. If that happens within the next couple of days, that will be the most interesting news for everyone on the ground here and outside the country, looking at Nigeria. What are we doing as far as moving forward?
Well, yes, they've got all those plans itemized, but the ministers themselves can heave a sigh of relief. They can begin to implement the budget, but can we say the same thing of the people? Because many out there expect, for want of words, magic.
Well, if you look at it, there's no magic, and the reality is this, and I just came out of some of the meetings with some of the central bank officials with some news media people early today, and the part of the discussion is this: there's so much to be done. There's little time to do it. Don't let anybody be under the impression that everything will change in 2016. This is the first phase of spending. You're bringing in this patient into the hospital, he's hemorrhaging, you need to stop the bleeding profusely. He's not going to go home the next day. This is not a minor accident. The economy has gone through a serious hemorrhaging. Therefore, you need to stabilize the patient. This 2016 budget is the first stabilization spending of the Buhari's administration. And I'm sure between now and May 29, we're going to hear more from the president himself. He would have put all the papers together over the next 20 days to have his first anniversary presentation on May 29, which we'll definitely cover. And the whole world will hear more from the president as to where he goes from here, 1 year past, and where he goes for the next over 1 year. But don't let's be under any illusion that this spending for this budget will cure all Nigeria's problem between the next 7 months. That is a tall order. It's not likely going to happen.
Then the other aspect is the word which a lot of people are concerned with when, even after the budget is signed, year in, year out, implementation. At this time, to what extent do you think that we will be able to overcome implementing successfully the budget?
Well, from a personal experience point of view, the problem in the past had been that you sign budgets. The transmission mechanism of the budget's implementation, which are the MDAs, had always ritually been a little bit inefficient. I don't want to use the word corrupt, but, well, somehow, the mechanism is the engine of the vehicle. What the president has done in the last 12 months since he took over was to rejig and rattle and try to restructure the ministry, the MDAs. In other words, with the TSA, with the cleaning out of the employment fraud, which you call ghost workers, in trying to make sure that you have an efficiency unit, to make sure that the board of directors and big boys in the MDAs and parastatals don't spend as much on travels and tea and coffee and biscuits and what have you. Now, these are some of the things that has put the entire transmission mechanisms, which is the ministry, department, and agencies, on their toes. By the time the money comes in, there's no hiding place. So it's like you've cleaned the house, the stable, before you bring in extra fund in. So when the budget spending is coming in, look at the process it's taking to get the budget in place. It's been front and back. You had issues with whether the budget was padded from the PAMSECs or the directors of finance and what the ministers. That had been the issue. Now, nobody is going to receive any of this money and think he has any place to hide or take a part of it home. So, part of what we can, perhaps with the benefit of hindsight, perhaps now, perhaps some months down the line, is to say, look, perhaps we had a president who believes that, look, let's clean the house first. Let's clean the vessel before we bring in additional wine into it, instead of bringing new wine into the old vessel. I guess that will be the conversation moving forward as far as implementation is concerned.
All right, Bosun Omar, for Channel's Business News Editor, thank you. You can catch up with Bosun much later.